talk a little bit about the different ways you can hinge the club, or this action in your swing, or this action, or this action, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of different things you can do with the rotation of your hands and how that works. So this training device, it's adaptable to a lot of different swing styles. For instance, I can do a very posted up thing here, keep this shoulder high, do that kind of motion, right? This shoulder doesn't get real high. This one stays above almost the whole time. That's a very controlled way to play golf. You have to go back a lot and through a lot. You could do a motion where I thought of making actually a shirt where so the center of your swing is right here, right? So that's what needs to stay consistent. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. But you can also, like I did in the last video about creating a lot of power, and this is what Dr. Kwan advocates, which I think is, if you go back and look at Mike Austin, who was the first guy who did a lot with biomechanics in the golf swing, and was obviously brilliant, and also still holds the record on the tour for the longest drive ever with a Persimmon driver back God knows when he was like pretty old, but anyway, amazing. He advocated a lot of this motion, which is kind of what Dr. Kwan advocates, right? This way and this way. So that's another way to move your body, and still this stays centered. And I think the reason Dr. Kwan and Michael Austin advocated that is it must produce a lot of speed. It's probably the most efficient general pattern for producing speed if you're comfortable with it. That's not the way I swing, just because it's not something I pursued or it feels natural. But secondarily then, so you could do a lot of different things in relationship to that. But what this is encouraging is also Mike Austin talked about how the hand should work in the swing, and he had his own idea. This is the one that this is built around and encourages, is that the hands work more this way, right? So you have some options with how your hands work in a golf swing. They can, so there's the sort of classic training where your hands go this way, and then you hinge this way, and then you come down there and rehinge, like toe up, toe up. That's one version. Then there's the one I like and do myself, and that's built around thing, is that your hands go actually more this way. So this hand stays at the ball. That's what Mo Norman used that method, and also interestingly, Mike, two very different characters, but Mike Austin also said this is the motion through the ball, is this throwing motion this way, not the traditional thing like this and then going like that. Then there's also, I think Ben Hogan did this to some extent, maybe not on every swing, but you see him turn the toe way open at first, right? So he's using a lot of actually this motion. So back, which is what gets him to be in this place, right? So he's there. So he's doing this, and it's coming down, and then doing that through the ball, but then very fast, so it keeps going. So that seems very unreliable, except that he was able to get to there and then be very steady. So he did have this big, super open face, and then boom. Well, I can sort of do that motion, but I wouldn't try to groove it myself. Yeah, and so talking about how the wrists hinge. This is designed for more the Mo Norman, Mike Austin style, where your hands, club face is always staying square to path, right? So that to me is probably, just in terms of how it feels for me, feels most natural as a right-hander to always think of that as being where the face is. I know Lee Trevino said he thought of the face as the back of the left hand, right? You can do that too. It's an interesting thing too. So Lee Trevino played what I would call So that would be square to square, what I'm doing. Always square to path. You can play open to closed, right? Open to closed or open to square. I think Lee Trevino played actually closed to open, which is interesting, right? So what we think of closed to path, open to path, but always, so part of the reason he was so accurate, always square to this line, right? So he kept the club face pointing at that line, and then again, kept the club face pointing at that line. So not very much this way, came through that way, and then you see him with the wedge too, he's like still there, right? You can see why that would be very reliable in terms of direction, right? That you're not changing the direction of the club face, it's always staying in this line. So that's the way to do it. But this, if you tried to do this thing and then close, that would be odd. Or if you tried to do Lee Trevino's idea, you could maybe do that sort of right. You could keep your path square to the line, but it's really, so that is one thing that this is designed to do, is to train you to keep your path, your face square to the path. Right? And so it's not the only way to swing, but it's the way, I think it's probably maybe, I think it's definitely more reliable than swinging open to closed. Probably not more reliable than swinging closed to open, which has a lot of squareness in it. But I think it feels more natural and produces more power than the closed to open, where you're doing that motion. So that's, I'm thinking, after doing a video where, let's see how far I can hit it. I hit it pretty far with the pitching wedge, but I also hit it 20 degrees left and pulled it, so not a lot of value in that. So I'm going to work this week, I think, on feeling that I'm transferring that feeling of hand path and playing through the ball and being very square. So more there. Just really focus on that and work on accuracy this week. That's going to be my goal this week, is accuracy. So just like that.